The truck rumbled down the dusty gravel road, kicking up clouds of reddish dirt that swirled like forgotten memories in the late afternoon sun. Lila pressed her forehead against the cool window, watching the endless rows of cornstalks blur past. They stretched out like silent sentinels, their leaves rustling in the breeze as if whispering secrets to one another. At 10 years old, she wasn't sure if this move to the old farmhouse in rural Iowa was a fresh start or just another way to run from the pain. Her mother had died 6 months ago in a car crash on a rainy highway, and the city apartment felt too empty without her laughter filling the rooms. Now, her father, Marcus, had decided they needed space, lots of it. Theo, her 6-year-old brother, bounced in the back seat, clutching his stuffed bear, oblivious to the weight hanging over them all. "Look, kids, there it is," Marcus said, his voice forcing cheer through the exhaustion etched on his face. He was a tall man with calloused hands from years as a mechanic, but lately his eyes carried shadows that no tool could fix. The farmhouse came into view, a weathered 2-story structure with peeling white paint and a wraparound porch sagging slightly on one side. An old barn loomed behind it, its red roof faded to a dull crimson, surrounded by overgrown fields that hadn't been tended in years. It was nothing like their bustling neighborhood back in Chicago, where sirens wailed at night and streetlights chased away the dark. They unloaded boxes under the golden light of sunset, the air thick with the scent of earth and hay. Lila carried her backpack inside first, stepping over the creaky threshold into a living room that smelled faintly of dust and old wood. The furniture was sparse, a worn couch, a rickety table, and shelves lined with forgotten knickknacks from the previous owners. "This place has character," Marcus muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. Theo darted ahead, his sneakers thudding on the hardwood floors. "I get the room with the big window," he shouted, disappearing up the stairs. Lila followed more slowly, her fingers trailing along the banister, feeling the grooves where countless hands had worn it smooth. Upstairs, the hallway branched into 3 bedrooms. She chose the one at the end, with slanted ceilings and a view of the cornfields stretching to the horizon. It felt cozy, almost inviting, until she noticed the faint scratches on the doorframe, like tiny claws had scraped at the wood. Shaking off the chill, she unpacked her clothes into the dresser, arranging her books on a small shelf. Theo's room was next door, and she could hear him giggling as he jumped on his bed. That first night, dinner was simple, sandwiches on paper plates amid the chaos of boxes. Marcus tried to make it fun, telling stories about his own childhood on a farm, but his smiles didn't reach his eyes. "We'll fix this place up. Make it ours," he said, ruffling Theo's hair. Lila nodded, forcing a grin, but her mind wandered to her mom, wondering if she'd approve of this isolated life. As the sun dipped below the fields, casting long shadows through the windows, they headed to bed early, exhausted from the drive. Lila lay under her quilt, staring at the cracked plaster ceiling. The house groaned softly as it settled, the wind whistling through tiny gaps in the walls. It was quieter than the city, almost too quiet, making every small sound amplified. She closed her eyes, drifting towards sleep, when a faint whisper tickled her ear. It was soft, like a sigh carried on the breeze, murmuring words she couldn't quite catch. Her eyes snapped open. The room was still, moonlight filtering through the thin curtains. "Just the wind," she whispered to herself, pulling the covers higher. But then Theo's voice echoed from down the hall. "Lila, did you see her?" She sat up, heart thumping. Slipping out of bed, she padded to his door and peeked in. He was sitting cross-legged on his mattress, staring at the full-length mirror propped against the wall, a relic left behind by the old owners. "See who?" she asked, stepping inside. The air felt cooler here, raising goosebumps on her arms. "The lady in the mirror," Theo said matter-of-factly, his wide eyes reflecting the dim nightlight. "She was smiling at me, but then she went away." Lila glanced at the mirror, seeing only their reflections, her messy brown hair and his tousled curls. "You were dreaming, buddy. Mirrors play tricks in the dark." She tucked him back in, but as she turned to leave, a chill ran down her spine. For a split second, the mirror's surface seemed to ripple, like water disturbed by a pebble. Back in her room, Lila tried to shake it off. Marcus had always said kids have vivid imaginations, especially after big changes. But sleep evaded her. She tossed and turned until dawn crept in, painting the sky pink. The next morning, with birds chirping outside, the night felt like a distant memory. They spent the day unpacking, Marcus hammering loose boards while Theo played in the yard. Lila ventured to the barn, curious about the outbuilding her dad mentioned fixing up for a workshop. The barn doors creaked open, revealing dusty beams of light piercing the gloom. Old tools hung on the walls and hay bales molded in the corners. As she poked around, her foot kicked something metallic. Bending down, she unearthed a small silver locket, tarnished but intricate, with a delicate chain. Inside, a faded photograph showed a woman with kind eyes, holding a baby. "Who were you?" she murmured, pocketing it to show her dad later. But as she turned to leave, a soft cry echoed from the rafters above, like a child's wail cut short. She froze, scanning the empty space. The sound didn't repeat, but the air grew heavy, pressing on her chest. Heart racing, she bolted back to the house with the locket clutched in her hand. What if this place held more than just dust and memories? And what if the whispers weren't just in her head? The days blurred into a rhythm of chores and exploration, the farmhouse slowly transforming from a stranger's relic into something resembling home. Lila helped Marcus paint the porch, the fresh white coat masking the years of neglect. Theo chased butterflies in the yard, his laughter a bright spot against the vast, whispering cornfields that encircled them like a golden sea. But beneath the normalcy, an undercurrent of unease lingered, like the faint hum of insects at dusk. Lila couldn't forget the cry in the barn or Theo's talk of the mirror lady. She kept the locket hidden in her drawer, afraid to mention it and risk her dad's dismissal. One afternoon, with the sun high and merciless, Lila hopped on her bike, an old hand-me-down with chipped blue paint, and pedaled down the winding dirt path bordering the fields. The cornstalks towered over her, their tassels swaying in unison, creating a tunnel of green that swallowed sound. She rode aimlessly, the wheels crunching over pebbles, until she spotted another kid about her age sitting on a fence post, whittling a stick with a pocket knife. He had freckles across his nose and sandy hair peeking from under a baseball cap. "Hey," she called, slowing to a stop. "You live around here?" He looked up, squinting against the light. "Yeah, down the road a bit. Name's Jasper. You the new folks at the old Wilkins farm?" His voice had a drawl, casual and friendly, like he'd known her forever. Lila nodded and introduced herself. They chatted about school, hers starting in a week, his at the local one-room setup, and the boredom of rural life. But when she mentioned the farmhouse, Jasper's eyes sharpened. "That place has stories," he said, hopping off the fence. "Folks say a woman named Elara lived there way back. She vanished during a bad storm, searching for her lost kid. Some think her spirit's still wandering the fields, looking." Lila felt a prickle on her neck. "Like a ghost?" She laughed it off, but Jasper didn't smile. "Not the scary kind, maybe, but weird stuff happens. Shadows that move wrong, voices on the wind." He shrugged, but his tone held a hint of warning. They exchanged promises to hang out again, and Lila rode home with his words echoing in her mind. Was that what she'd heard in the barn? That evening, as thunderheads gathered on the horizon, the family sat on the porch watching fireflies dance. Marcus sipped coffee, his gaze distant. Lila noticed how he avoided talking about Mom, burying himself in repairs instead. Theo, curled in a chair, suddenly pointed to the fields. "Look, the shadows are playing." Lila followed his finger. Amid the corn, elongated shapes twisted unnaturally, not matching the setting sun's angle. They shifted like figures darting between stalks, silent and fluid. "It's just the light," Marcus said gruffly. But he stood up abruptly, ushering them inside. Night fell heavy, the air thick with impending rain. Lila lay awake, listening to the house creak. Footsteps echoed faintly from above, the attic, where no one went. Slow,
deliberate, like someone pacing. She held her breath, counting them. 1, 2, 3. They stopped directly overhead, then resumed, fading away. "Imagination," she whispered, echoing her dad's words. But dreams brought a woman in a flowing dress, calling her name from the fields. The next morning, Theo woke screaming from a nightmare. "The lady was calling me. She wants me to come play." His face was pale, eyes wide with terror. Lila hugged him, glancing at Marcus, who rubbed his temples. "It's the move, son. New places mess with dreams." But Lila saw the flicker of doubt in his eyes. Later, while Marcus was in town for supplies, she confided in Theo. "What does she look like?" Theo described a pale woman with long hair, eyes sad but kind, matching the Locket photo. Afternoon, Jasper came over, biking up with a bag of comic books. They sat in the barn, sharing stories. Lila showed him the locket. "Found it here. Think it's her, Elara?" Jasper's eyes lit up. "We should check the attic. Old houses hide stuff." But as they talked, a gust rattled the doors, and whispers slithered through the cracks, murmuring names. Jasper froze. "Hear that?" Dusk approached, and they stepped outside. In the fields, a solitary figure stood amid the corn, a silhouette against the fading light, motionless. Lila's blood ran cold. It turned, as if sensing them, then melted into the stalks. Thea, watching from the porch, whimpered. What if the figure wasn't gone? What if it was waiting, just out of sight, drawing closer?
With school looming, Lila threw herself into settling in, but the shadows in the fields haunted her thoughts. Jasper became a regular visitor, his bike leaning against the barn as they swapped tales. He brought books on local history, dog-eared pages marking ghost legends. Elara Wilkins lost her baby in a flood, he explained one afternoon, sprawled on the hayloft floor. They say she searches eternally, calling out. Lila shivered, the locket heavy in her pocket. Theo hovered nearby, drawing crayon sketches of a woman with hollow eyes. That's her, he insisted, holding up a picture. Marcus, overhearing, shook his head. Enough of that nonsense. Focus on real things. But real things felt slippery. Marcus grew more withdrawn, sorting through old boxes in the basement late at night. Lila caught him staring at a faded letter, his face twisted in pain. "Dad, what's wrong?" she asked once. He folded it quickly. "Just memories, kiddo, from when I was your age, stuff I'd rather forget." His voice cracked, hinting at deeper wounds, perhaps tied to his own losses before meeting Mom. Driven by curiosity, Lila and Jasper plotted an attic raid. While Marcus napped and Theo played outside, they crept up the narrow stairs, the door groaning like a warning. The attic was a maze of cobwebs and forgotten relics, trunks overflowing with yellowed clothes, broken lamps, and stacks of books mildewed by time. Dust motes danced in the slanted light from a small window. "Look for anything with names," Jasper whispered, his flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. Lila pried open a trunk, coughing at the musty scent. Beneath layers of fabric lay a leather-bound diary, its cover embossed with faded initials, E.W. "Elara Wilkins," she breathed. The pages crackled as she opened it, revealing elegant script from the 1920s. Entries spoke of daily farm life, then darkened. Mentions of a beloved child, a stormy night, and overwhelming grief. "She writes about hearing voices too," Lila read aloud. "Whispers from the fields, calling her back." Jasper leaned in, and look, sketches of a locket just like yours. As they delved deeper, the air grew colder, breaths visible in puffs. A page turned on its own, revealing a desperate entry. "The child is gone, but the land holds secrets. Beware the calls. They lead to truth or madness." Lila's hands trembled.
Was this a warning? Suddenly, footsteps thudded below, Marcus ascending. "What are you doing up here?" he barked, eyes narrowing at the diary. "This isn't a playground. Old junk like that stirs up trouble." He confiscated the book, locking it in his room, but not before Lila glimpsed his expression. Fear, not anger. "Dad, why are you scared?" she pressed later over dinner. He sighed, setting down his fork. "When I was a boy, we lived near here. Strange things happened. Shadows, voices. I thought it was my imagination, but it drove my folks apart. I don't want that for us." His admission hung heavy, a new layer to his grief over Mom. Theo, sensing the tension, whispered, "The lady says it's okay. She knows Mom." That night, unable to sleep, Lila snuck into Marcus's room for the diary. Moonlight spilled across the floor as she flipped through, the words blurring in her haste. Whispers rose again, clearer now, echoing her mother's gentle tone. "Lila, come find me!" Heart pounding, she turned a page, and it flipped ahead unaided, landing on a chilling line. "The spirit guards the bloodline, but danger approaches with the rain."
The diary's words burrowed into Lila's mind, twisting her dreams into nightmares of flooding fields and a woman's desperate cries. Marcus's confession added fuel, revealing his own haunted past. He'd seen shadows as a child, dismissed by his parents, leading to years of doubt. "I bought this place to face it," he admitted one evening, staring into the fire. "But maybe it was a mistake." Theo's drawings piled up, each more detailed. The lady with outstretched hands, fields alive behind her. Jasper, excited by the diary snippets Lila shared, dug into town archives at the library. "Elara was your great-aunt," he reported breathlessly over the phone. "Your dad's grandma's sister. Family tie." Objects began shifting inexplicably. A chair scraped across the kitchen floor at dawn. Books tumbled from shelves, whispering pages. One night, during a power flicker from distant thunder, the full-length mirror in Theo's room shattered, shards scattering like ice. In the fragments, Lila swore she saw a pale face, not her own, smiling sadly before vanishing. "She's trying to tell us something," Theo said, unfazed, as if the lady were a friend. Subplot tensions rose. Marcus found old letters from his mother, hinting at a family curse tied to the farm's tragedy. Guilt over the car accident consumed him. He'd been arguing with Mom on the phone moments before the crash. "If I'd hung up," he trailed off to Lila, tears in his eyes. She hugged him, but the house felt alive, responding to his pain with creaks and sighs. Jasper and Lila pored over copies of records in the barn, piecing Elara's story. She'd saved a neighbor's child from drowning, but perished herself, her body never found. "Guardian spirit," Jasper mused. That midnight, alone in her room, Lila heard scratching at the window. Peering out, she saw nothing but stars. Then, a soft glow emanated from her drawer, the locket. Opening it, the photo seemed to move, the woman's eyes meeting hers. The air shimmered, and there she was, the spectral woman, translucent and ethereal, standing at the foot of the bed. Not menacing, but serene, her dress rippling like water. Lila's scream caught in her throat. The figure raised a hand, pointing to the floorboards. With a whisper, "Family's secret," she faded. Trembling, Lila pried up a loose board, revealing a hidden box with yellow documents, a birth certificate linking Elara to their lineage, and a note about a hidden well in the fields, site of the tragedy. But one paper stood out,
a warning of recurring floods every decade, next due soon. Was the ghost protecting them from a real peril?
Warnings from the diary and documents loomed as dark clouds massed, mirroring Elara's fateful night. Marcus, shaken by Lila's account of the apparition, finally believed. If she's family, maybe she's here for a reason, he said, gathering them in the living room. Theo nodded eagerly. She likes us. Jasper arrived, armed with maps showing the hidden well, now a flood risk with heavy rains. Subplot climax, Marcus confessed fully, the argument with Mom about moving back to Iowa, his roots. I ignored the signs then, not now. As lightning cracked, rain pounded like fists on the roof. Power outage plunged them into darkness, candles flickering wildly. Whispers swelled to voices calling names. Theo wandered toward the door, entranced. "She's outside!" Lila grabbed him as winds howled, shaking the house. Floodwaters rose swiftly, lapping at the porch, unnaturally fast, as if drawn by the land's curse. The ghost manifested fully, a luminous figure blocking the door. "Not again," her voice echoed, ethereal yet firm. She gestured, and waters parted around the house, diverting like a miracle. But Theo slipped out, drawn to the fields. Panic ensued. Marcus and Lila chased him through the storm, Jasper shouting warnings. At the well's edge, overflowing, the ghost appeared, lifting Theo from the brink, her form shielding him from debris. "My blood protects," she whispered, revealing her sacrifice was for a relative, the start of their line. The storm peaked, lightning illuminating Elara's face, kind, resolved. As it subsided, she turned to Lila. "Release me. Bury the locket at the well." Her form wavered, a plea in her eyes. But as peace settled, a final whisper lingered. One more trial awaits. What could it mean, with the waters receding, but the night far from over?
Dawn broke clear, the field sodden, but the house spared. Marcus, humbled, led the ritual from the diary, burying the locket at the well with words of gratitude. As dirt covered it, a soft glow rose, Elara's figure appearing one last time, smiling before dissolving into mist. Peace descended, whispers ceased, shadows stilled. Marcus opened up about his guilt, therapy sessions following, bonding the family. Jasper became like a brother, sharing adventures minus the supernatural. Years later, adult Lila returned to the farm, now thriving. The experience taught forgiveness. Elara's guardianship healed old wounds. Theo, an artist, painted her memory benevolently. Marcus remarried, content. Yet, on stormy nights, Lila felt a gentle presence, a watchful echo ensuring safety. The haunting wasn't terror, but a bridge to the past, forever changed.